Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. I hope your life is absolutely fantastic. It has to be better than Kirk Cousins because on the Kirk Cousins show, yes, that exists, he was asking, is it too late for me to say sorry? Because my passes are missing more than just your body. We'll talk about that. Is that good accountability or is it a little bit soft ass? People are wondering. We'll have all of the answers for you. Jerry Jones is an absolute savage. Percy Harvin loves the weed. Loves the weed. Loves the weed. Excited to chat about that. Also, what is the best sports playoff to watch, especially after what happened last night? Absolute snooze fest for 7 innings. And in the 8th inning, it was absolute explosion. We'll dive into that. Over 35,000 votes have been casted in our poll of the people on Twitter. We'll dive into that. We'll take some phone calls, and we'll also take your calls after the show. At noon, we'll be answering a lot of phone calls for tomorrow's podcast. It'll be a nice call-in segment. So if we don't get to you while we're live, know that we're taking phone calls for an extra 30 minutes afterwards for the Pat McAfee Show 2.0 podcast that comes out tomorrow. Today, Zito's quote board says,
I'm actually as proud of many of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. Steven Jobs.
Thank you for that, Zito. Thank you for that, Steve Jobs. Thank you for Chase Rice for making this incredible banger. Evan Foxy, play that thing.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is Chase Rice with an absolute heater. I look around the room at an extraordinary group of gentlemen. At Nick Moraldo, at Toten Diggs with a Z, at Todd McComas, at Evan Foxy, at Viva Lazito, at Ty Schmidt, and at Bubba Gumpino back there on the 1s and 2s, who's actually on a flight back to Canada on Friday because he's got a stern warning about being banned for 5 years if the Canadians still continue to mingle into our country. Is that accurate, Gumpy?
We're in a bad spot, pal.
Yeah, it turns out the wall on the south side of the thing is not just a problem. Gumpy has had quite an issue becoming a working human here in America. We'll dive into that. Speaking of working humans in America, Kirk Cousins, yesterday we talked about this. Adam Thielen, Zimmer, a lot of people inside the Minnesota Vikings organization coming out and saying, hey, this quarterback basically got to play better. Mike Zimmer said he got to pull the trigger a little bit more. He's got to do this. Thielen said we have to be a much more balanced attack. I don't think he took an exact shot at Kirk Cousins, but the way it came across, especially in the heat of the moment right after a game, basically said that we got to start throwing the ball a little bit better. He said that. I mean, he didn't say it in those exact words. He didn't say Kirk Cousins stinks, but he basically said it. So then Kirk Cousins on the Kirk Cousins show, which, yes, that does exist. I had no idea that exists. I asked Foxy, I said, do you think anybody listens to that show? And Foxy says,
Yeah, I think Michigan State probably listens to that show.
Bad people.
that makes me judge Michigan State even harder than I have for a long time.
You know what? He's been my guy. I've always defended him, but I can't do it anymore.
You're
I just
out on
can't
him.
do it anymore.
Really?
He's a bad football
loyalty.
player.
Yeah, but he's in a content creation game, which I respect.
Yeah, I respect
The
that.
Kirk Cousins show at least gets 45 to 50 downloads every single week. And I appreciate the fact that a quarterback is willing to have his own show, right? Because he has a busy schedule. Maybe people argue you should watch more film. Maybe you should take a little bit more reps. But the fact that he lets people in on his life as a starting quarterback in the NFL who's making $84 million guaranteed, I can respect that. I actually can respect that. I wish more quarterbacks would do that. Tom Brady has that segment on that radio show that I don't think he does anymore because they said something bad about his family. So he said, go to hell. But every week, that was awesome. Ben Roethlisberger had an appearance where he would throw his teammates under the bus. So it seems like whenever quarterbacks have these shows, it's always notable because quarterbacks are obviously the hottest position in the hottest sport in America. And on the Kirk Cousins show, he apologized to Thielen because he said not only is he the best player or a good wide receiver, blah, 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 he's one of the best players in the world, and I have to do a better job hitting him whenever he's open.
Mm-hmm. Accurate.
All the talking heads this morning on television, there was differing opinions here. There's differing opinions. Chris Carter on First Things First said, you know, Adam Thielen could have gave him a little bit more of a heads up on certain passes and could have ran better routes, and maybe he gets open better, Kirk Cousins hits him. Dan Orlovsky called him soft.
Him apologizing was weak sauce.
Weak sauce, which, by the way, that in and of itself is weak sauce. But I can understand where Dan Orlovsky, another quarterback, would say, hey, listen, you don't have to apologize for missing throws. Like, people are going to miss things are going to happen. And it reminded me of a situation whenever we played the Cincinnati Bengals, who weren't the Bungles at the time. They were actually a pretty good little football team. We were actually the Aints of the NFL at that time. It was the 2011 season when old Curtis Painter was our quarterback. And we were in the game with the Bengals in the fourth quarter. It was either down 3 or down 10. I don't remember the exact play. It ended up 27-17 the game. 53-yard field goal going into the open end of the stadium in Cincinnati, which is a little bit breezy. It opens up to the river. Kentucky's right across there. I took a little boat from across there, actually. It's an interesting situation, but it's a little breezy down there. But Adam Vinatieri, greatest kicker of all time, let's assume he makes it. I gave him a bad hold. Bad hold. I bobbled the snap. It was the only one in my career. I bobbled the snap. The laces weren't right. I gave Vinatieri absolutely no chance of making the kick, right? No chance. He pulls it to the left. I think a lot of people thought it was potentially blocked. I'm not certain it was blocked. I think that's just how bad the ball was held that Vinny kicked. I think it was just a terrible game, or a terrible ball hold by me. So after the game, they asked Vinatieri about it, what happened. And Vinatieri always does the professional things. He says, we'll watch film, see what happened, hopefully correct it. When he could have just said, Pat McAfee had a terrible hold. So one of the reporters came over to me, and he was like, what happened on the kick? Why'd Vinny miss it that bad? And I said straight up, I was like, I gave him a terrible hold. I gave him absolutely no chance. He had no chance of making that kick. It was 100% on me. The next day in the Indy Star, there was an article written about how it was 100% my fault that Vinatieri missed that kick, right? Which I think was good for me and Vinatieri's relationship, because Vinatieri is the greatest of all time. He doesn't need it on his record that he missed that kick in the fourth quarter to potentially tie the game. He needs to know that I am willing to take accountability and say, hey, this is 100% my fault. Now, granted, did I love that it got broadcasted in the newspaper? No, I mean, do you talk about all my great holds? You don't. you don't one time. So I respect the fact that Kirk Cousins is going out publicly saying, hey, listen, I messed this up. He's 100% right. I'm getting paid a lot of money to do this. I got to start making more passes. What I hate about this whole thing is how public it all is. Like, I hate how public this whole thing is. That conversation between me and Vinatieri happened on the sideline immediately after that game, where I said, hey, I am so sorry about that hold. That is 100% my fault. People on TV probably have no idea that that was my fault. You need to know that I know that that's my fault, right? So he could have buried me in the press afterwards. He chose not to. I'm actually the one that stepped up and took it. I don't like the fact that Thielen and Kirk Cousins have now become a public conversation, right? Thielen said he likes Kirk Cousins as a person. We've talked to him. He said he's a big fan of him. Mm-hmm. He likes the way he's quirky. He said he's kind of funny. He's got a passion. He's everything like that. And I think whenever you're put in a position to answer a question about something, anytime you give a real answer, the media always is like, oh, these people give cliche answers. But then when they give a real answer, the media spins it and tries to bury them. So Thielen's like, well, this is the case. He gives a real answer in a raw moment, an emotional moment where things weren't great. And he finally gives the media something they can go off of. Now it becomes an entire story. And people wonder why players are so guarded, why coaches give such BS answers at all times. We won't live in our fears. We won't do this. Chopping wood, be where your feet are. The next game's the most important game, blah, 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 because it's the next game. All these cliches, because anytime somebody gives a real answer, they're automatically drilled into the dirt to be the worst humans on earth. Joe Flacco was asked at one point if he thought he was an elite quarterback, and he said, yeah, I do think I'm an elite quarterback. That is still being talked about to this day. What is Joe Flacco supposed to say there? No, I stink. I am absolutely terrible. So Thielen gives a real answer. Then Kirk Cousins obviously has to answer it on his own show, which is on the Minnesota Vikings website, which is interesting. So now they're doing that whole thing. It's just become this public display of, I don't like it. It's like Real Housewives type stuff. But now that I'm in the media, I love that we get to talk about it. So I'll say this. Kirk Cousins should have apologized. He was garbage. He's been garbage. He's getting paid $84 million. He can probably play better. You like that? I would like that. If you played better for Adam Thielen, good friend of the show, incredibly competitive golfer, and you got people on Pro Football Talk in the comments section. Now listen, by the way, if there's anybody commenting on Pro Football Talk, it better be PFT commenter. That's the only person I care about in there. But all the other humans that were underneath the article were calling Adam Thielen a prima donna, and there were some people on TV talking about how this is Adam Thielen's fault. Let's remember that Adam Thielen is a guy that literally had to bust his ass to get where he's at. Had to go to a regional combine that people are just paying $60 to get into. It's kind of a hustle by the NFL, actually. Mm-hmm. They're like, there's a bunch of people that think they're Vince Papale. Let's go and take their money and just have them come run around in circles for a little bit. Adam Thielen's really the only success success story out of that thing. The guy had to earn his way to everything. He earned his way to his contract. He bust his ass. So to say he's a prima donna because in a raw emotional moment, he finally said something that everybody on earth was thinking about a quarterback that's making a lot of guaranteed money, I think we need to just chill out on that. And with that being said, I think Kirk Cousins is a nerd. I think he'll always be a nerd. But I respect the fact that he had a little accountability here where he let everybody know that he knows that he stinks.
Yeah, I don't like him being attacked for this, especially by Orlovsky. I forgot that he was in the Hall of Fame.
Tony!
I mean, it's true.
I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for him saying that.
Well, maybe we should just start apologizing for everything.
Yeah, we should. What was Cousins supposed to do, though? He's not like he's going to go on his show and he's asked this question and he's going to throw Thielen under the bus and then continue this on. If he apologizes and takes accountability for it, then the story starts to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of gained some respect of Kirk Cousins through this, actually. And it was an interesting thought because Dan Orlovsky, Danny O, who called him weak sauce, said, would you ever see Tom Brady doing this? And I was like, that's a great question. But then Tom Brady has earned everything that he's gotten. So Tom Brady doesn't have to say, hey, I had a bad game today. I'm sorry to Julian Edelman for missing him a couple times publicly, because Tom Brady has won 6 Super Bowls. They're like, would Drew Brees do this? I'm like, great question, Orlovsky. These are things that I would think about. Would Drew Brees do it? I don't know, but Drew Brees has every passing record in the NFL. Would Aaron Rodgers do this? I'm sure Aaron Rodgers would, actually, privately, but he kills him with indifference publicly, so he wouldn't say a single thing. I think this is Kirk Cousins with a little self-awareness that he has not lived up to the hype and not lived up to the contract that he's been given, and maybe this is a pivot point for the entire Minnesota Vikings, or maybe this is just him being a nerd and cowering with people yelling. I don't know. I'll be excited to see how it goes.
Well, if you think about it, this week, actually, Brady said that the offense did not play well enough. It's not apologizing, but it's him being honest, and Rodgers was saying that the offense also needs to play better, that the defense was carrying them.
Yeah, and he said that immediately after the first game, too. So I think accountability is a good thing, because there isn't a lot of accountability in this world. People make a lot of mistakes, and nobody ever takes credit for it. We're realizing that now with these corporations we're working with. Something will go wrong. We'll go directly to the person that we think is the problem. We'll say, hey, listen, this is not working for us. Not that big of a deal. Is there any way you can fix it? Oh, Jan.
We'll get you a bill in accounting.
There's not a lot of accountability in the world that we're in anymore, because nobody really likes feeling bad. Nobody likes acknowledging that they made mistakes, mostly because if people do that, they think they're going to get, downgraded from their position, mocked on public social media, anything like that. Accountability has been something that our society has lost. So whenever that super nerd, Kirk Cousins from Michigan State, who has stunk at football for the last couple of years because he got paid so much money, some people are arguing, is that because he went to Michigan State? I'm not saying that.
Whoa.
I'm not saying that, Foxy. I'm just telling you, people are saying that, which we will be doing later today, and we got some good topics tonight. I'm excited for that. I just want to know if it's really that bad of a thing that he showed a little accountability. I don't think it is. I think it's good for the NFL. Either. I think it's great.
Humble.
Speaking of accountability, I mean, Jerry Jones and the comment about offense coordinators being on the hot seat is one that is being taken in a hilarious fashion by all the talking heads on television. Kellen Moore was riding such a high there. He's got the cute little headset on the sideline. He's got that Jim Caldwell face, never seems to smile. He's holding his little pen lefty. He's a lefty. Everything's going good. In the last couple of weeks, things have been going bad. Now Jerry Jones like, that's what you're going to get as offense coordinator, pal. This is life in the NFL. This is life as a Dallas Cowboy offensive coordinator. Don't fornicate it up, kid. We'll dive more into that than people are saying. 1-833-622-3331. If we don't get to you live on the air from 10 to noon here, we'll get you at noon to noon 30 for our podcast recording that comes out tomorrow. Be a part of the show. You are. You're a massive part. You're great. And hopefully we'll have more great stuff on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'll tell you what. I liked what Kirk Cousins did. Showed a little accountability. Didn't like that it all had to be handled publicly, but I think he moved up a notch in my book. Still doesn't mean he can play quarterback well, but I think as a human, I'm starting to like him a little bit more. Percy Harvin, in an interview, came out and said that he was high in every single game that he played on the marijuana. And I assume a lot of people that are outside of the competitive world are shocked by this, maybe taken aback. Maybe the old whites don't fully understand this. That was such a broad shot at old white people.
Yeah, it's probably spot on, though.
Yeah, he's on that dope.
What is that, pot?
He's smoking that dope down there. I think it's so interesting the way marijuana has been viewed by the generations, right? And I've always said this, that the reason why marijuana is viewed in such a negative light by a lot of the old heads who are currently in power in creating laws and stuff like that. For a long time, now granted, I think that's changing, was because first impressions go a long way. And the first impression of marijuana for a lot of these older folks that are in power was the hippies after the Vietnam War. And the hippies after the Vietnam War were everything that these old folks are not. They were anti-America. They were anti-war. They were anti the soldiers. They were anti the troops. They were everything that was bad in America in a lot of people's eyes, in the older folks' eyes. And they have their entire life linked those two together. They've been like, all right, hippies, marijuana. Yeah, marijuana, studies say it's good for everything basically inside your body, but let's not recall whenever them dopes, hippies, were hugging trees out there, wasting society away. They were smoking weed. And first impressions are hard to get over. That is a true thing. Now, granted, as more studies and more science comes out and says, like, hey, this cannabinoid thing and hemp and marijuana and everything like that is literally very good for you, I think it's something we should think about. It's a much better alternative than pharmaceuticals. It's a much better intoxication than alcohol. It's a much better thing than potentially everything else that you could potentially get into in your world. Then there was the entire thing, well, it's a gateway drug. Do you know 90% of the people that do meth smoke marijuana? I'm like, well, I would say 100% of those people smoke cigarettes too at some point. I would say 100% of those people have used the alcohol as well. So to say it's a gateway drug, it's been a lot of propaganda, a lot of PR against it. Now that more sciences and studies are coming out, everybody is realizing that, oh, it's probably nowhere near as bad as we originally thought it was. Here in Marion County, Indiana, actually, it just got decriminalized, which Indiana is a very slow-moving state. So if it's happening here, let's assume it's going to happen everywhere.
Which also means the Bible says it's okay.
Not only financially is it going to be good, not only biblically is it going to be good, but also it is shown that it works very big wonders for your body. For instance, there's a lot of people that live and die by CBD now. I like to use it a lot. We have a company that we do a lot of work with, CBDMD. They put me to sleep, and they've also made the arthritis in my knees kind of disappear. My old man, who had that thought about the hippies and marijuana for a long time, I think he found out that I smoked the dope, and it was almost a moment where he wasn't going to talk to me for a while. But now that he's on the CBD and his body's feeling better, everybody's kind of coming around to it. And in athletics, believe it or not, there are a percentage of men, and I'd assume women as well, even though I have not seen them, so I can't speak for them, who perform better whenever their anxiety is lower, whenever they have much higher focus, whenever they are high on the marijuana. I did not do it because I never wanted to have a bad game and then there potentially be blame, like, oh, well, yeah, McAfee's high, that's why he can't kick. But for some guys, it works for them. I would assume if you watch the NBA and you can just look in the eyes of some of the guys out there and you go to your local LA Fitness, the guys that are probably balling on all the little white kids there, probably high if I had to guess, because for some people, marijuana can not only make your body feel better. Not only can it bring you a little happiness, but it makes you focus more. It makes you dial in a little bit more. It gets rid of the anxiety and the overthinking and the paralysis by analysis. Percy Harvin's the first player to really come out and say that he's been high in every single game. I assume there'll be more as we continue to go through this. I had a lot of friends that I was played with who did this on a very regular occasion, and it was like, all right, I take Toradol for every game, which is a shot that they have no idea what it does to my liver or kidney. Nobody has a clue what it's going to do. That thing might kill me quicker than what Morgantown did to me for 4 years. Where I had a great time, by the way. Morgantown is a great time, but I abused my liver and body to the tune of $40,000 worth of student loans that I got out strictly to party, which is a story in of itself. But if guys are taking Toradol every single game and they're taking other painkillers just to play football, and he's not doing that, but he was smoking weed instead, I don't think people should judge him as hard. Now, granted, the image is that, well, the doctor prescribed the Toradol or the doctor prescribed the pharmaceuticals. They didn't prescribe the marijuana. He got that off a street corner. Well, that's a pretty accurate statement, but if we're getting to point A to point B to make our bodies and minds feel better, if it's a safer, more healthier route, why would anybody judge the guy? And I assume there's going to be a lot more of these stories come out as we go. And the interesting thing to me is Percy Harvin had like chronic migraines, right?
Yeah, bad.
So marijuana does nothing for migraines?
I don't think so.
Or is he just smoking the wrong strand? Somebody should have got a hold of him and be like, yo, I got this anti-migraine stuff. Go ahead and put this in a bowl right before you get out there and do the whole thing. But I think as we move forward as a society, as we learn more and more about this, I think the devilization? No.
Demonization?
Wow, I knew it was something. That's a good word, by the way. The demonization of marijuana is going to disappear, I think. Just because, I mean, what it does with cancer patients, what it has done for people with arthritis, what it has done just for everyday lives, the little kids that their lives completely change whenever they get CBD and things like that. I think it's a slow process, but you got to remember the old whites that are in charge had an incredibly terrible first impression with marijuana, so that's where judgment comes from.
Yeah, I can't speak to the migraines, but in the interview he said that he was taking 7 prescriptions for his anxiety disorder, like Zoloft and all of that, and none of that worked, so that's why he was always smoking marijuana before games and stuff like that.
You know what's interesting? Now people would say, well, then is that a performance-enhancing drug because it gets rid of his anxiety a little bit? And I would argue, I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't know if that helps you out mentally and everything's in between the ears. But Adderall there should be no place in the NFL for Adderall. There was a kid that came my contract year 4, when Chuck came, the new regime came, we had a new special teams coach. He was a joy. I mean, he's actually a good guy, but in his first year with some power, I don't think he handled it properly. Now I've gotten a chance to chat with him or whatever. My first conversation with him, he literally said to me, he said, you need to lose some weight, you look bad. And I was like, are we trying to look good or be good? You know what I mean? Like at first, he was like, both. And I was like, all right, well. In my head, I'm like, well, looking at you, we're in a bad spot. But I was like, nice to meet you. And he was like, and you need to learn how to directionally punt or we'll fire you because we're bringing in a kid who already knows how to do that. And I'm like, a great first impression with this guy, right? Like I just said about the marijuana, first impressions are tough to get over, especially with me. I am a very stubborn human. So if I hate you forever, probably. If I defriend you on Facebook, you're not coming back. I've been a little bit more relaxed with the Twitter blocking, you know? Because a lot of people, because you couldn't mute people back in the day. So if I had some bum that was just tweeting me every single day, I was like, I'm on this app a lot. I don't need this human's life. I just block them. Like, see you later. I wish I could do this in real life too. Like, just see you later. And then everybody deserves it. But now I'm getting older. I'm realizing grudges need to be put away because it's not good for you. So I'm unblocking people. But this kid that came in to compete for my job, I would go into the facility, by the way, at like midnight. I was going in there at like 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep because I was trying to learn how to directional punt. You got to remember when I was drafted, I didn't even know how to punt to begin with. So, I mean, it was just like a couple years later, and now it's my time to potentially get paid. It's my contract year. I just had my best year just bombing the ball right down the middle of the field like all the greats have done, Shane Leckler, Andy Lee, you name it. All the great punters just bombed the ball down the middle of the field, which is what I was doing. I was trying to learn how to punt. So going into my contract year, when I'm finally going to potentially make money for my family, it's going to be good. I get told by the new special teams coach that I either learn how to do this or I'm going to get cut because they're bringing in a kid. I was like, all right, well, us McAfees, we work. That's what we do. You tell me I'm going to do this. Even though I hated the way you delivered the news to me, I'm going to figure it out. So I couldn't sleep at night. I would go in there late night. Me and the security guy at the Colts facility was hilarious relationship. The lights would go on. Some alarms would probably go off at Ursay's house or whatever. And then the security guy who had been sleeping in his car out front would have to drive back there. And he's actually on the phone. He'd be like, Oh, it's McAfee. I would have my iPad or my iPhone plugged into the music. I'd be blasting Young Jeezy at like 12:30 a.m. in the indoor facility. Now it's against the rules. I'm probably not even allowed to have balls in there at the time. But I was like, I'm going to figure out how to do this directional punting thing. And I did. I picked it up pretty quick. I felt pretty good about myself, but I put in a lot of work with it. And the new kid comes in. And he's this kid fresh out of college. He's out of San Diego. And I'm watching this kid punt. And he won't talk to me in Vinatieri at all, right? So obviously they had told him, like, you're coming in here to take this guy's job. And for me, I don't care if you're going to do that. If I'm around you every day, like, we have to talk to each other. Like, this is just not going to be a thing. He was dialed in, focused, and his eyes were massive every day. Every single day his eyes were massive. So we're getting into camp, like, we're like 7 days in, 8 days into camp, where everybody's kind of groggy at this point. And this kid every single day came in, eyes literally glued open almost. Every meeting, he was like taking all these notes. I'm like, why are you taking notes? We're just punting right or left. Like, there was a lot of things I wanted to help him out, but he refused to talk to me. I was like, you don't have to be taking notes. And like, this is just a waste of time. Like, even if you take my job, you're wasting ink right now. Like, there's no chance of this. So finally, like, we're like 2 weeks into camp or whatever, and I think he's starting to realize that there's nothing he can do. Like, I just have a massive leg. Like, there's just nothing you can do. Like, literally, I understand what they were telling you, but there's nothing you could do. So I finally asked him, I'm like, dude, every single day you are just, like, I don't think I've ever seen you potentially tired at all and not dialed in 100%. He was like, oh, I got a prescription for Adderall. And I was like, a prescription for Adderall? I was like, isn't that what, like, the college kids do so they can stay up all night and just write papers? He's like, yeah, I need it because I have ADD or whatever. And I'm like, well, it seems like you need it because it's making you basically like a meth head energy. It seems as if that is potentially a cheating thing. He was like, well, I got a therapeutic exemption. I had to go through a couple of doctors and all this stuff. So I started thinking, I was like, well, I should do that. And Vinatieri was like, hell, me too, man. But he's like, I'm 40 years old. I get tired quicker than anybody. I should get this drug that just makes me bright-eyed, bushy-tailed all damn day. And then I took it finally the day I retired. I took it for the first time the day I retired. It was immediately after the press conference on Comedy Central in Houston with Barstool. And the next day I had a bunch of media to do. And I was very tired because the night before we celebrated. I mean, I just retired. There was not a lot going on in the Super Bowl, so it was a big-ass story. I mean, a lot of people were talking about it. It was awesome. Everything went the way to plan. I sent a nice thank you message to the city of Indianapolis. I was happy with what I was doing. I was excited, and I was dead tired, and I had like, I think it was 20 interviews to do that day. And I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. And I forget who it was. Somebody comes up to me, you want an Adderall? And I was like, I thought back to that kid. I was like, yep, the little meth kid. That was fucking bullshit. I was like, let me see how that is. I was, 4 or 5 hours into it, Todd, you were with me.
Yeah.
And I was ready to jump over a fence. I was like, man, if I would have taken this my entire career, I'm probably starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. I was rolling. And if Adderall is legal, which is obviously a performance-enhancing drug, and Toradol is a lifesaver in the NFL. I will never want them to ban that, but we have no idea what that does to your liver or kidney. And if all these all these pain pillars and all these things that do it, why isn't marijuana legal? At this point, what are we even doing? Why is it not legal? Why is it not allowed in the NFL? It's only a matter of time. Let's hope we get to it, is all I've said.
Big tobacco.
It is. We're down in
That's it,
Winston-Salem, man. We were down in Winston-Salem for that Wake Forest, North Carolina game, and they were having a town hall on how dangerous vaping is. Come down to the town hall to learn how dangerous what your kids are doing and how great tobacco is, basically.
Cigarettes are still great for you.
Especially when you roll them by hand. Because not only are you smoking carcinogens and tar, you're smoking love. And that's what we need down here.
You don't need these filters on there. But the opioid addiction too. Like that's.
Yes.
I mean, it's devastating our country right now. How is there even an argument?
It's all big lobbies. That's just literally how the world works. And I don't think I would have known that until watching House of Cards. Literally, the only thing that matters is
Pharma does not want the opioids to go away.
no, Pharma doesn't, and Big Tobacco don't. And when you got Big Pharma and Big Tobacco teaming up, it's amazing that marijuana even has seeds. Let's get to a break. I'm happy Percy came out and said that. I'm assuming a lot more people will. Mm-hmm. And if you ever see me playing at an LA Fitness near you, know that I'm probably on cloud 10 and I'm about to get wet. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. This show is being broadcasted live because of some fantastic humans over at the DAZN app. DAZN is the home to the NFL in Canada, Germany, Italy, and I believe a few other countries. And hopefully we will be the home of the NFL here in a few years in America. But what I do know is this upcoming weekend, the greatest fight in the history of fighting will be happening in Madison Square Garden, New York City, as Triple G fights Shevchenko. And it's going to be fantastic.
And a right hand over the top. That hook landed, and down goes Holmes in a heap.
Oscar De La Hoya tweeted after the fight, nice, with the thumbs up emoji. A comeback win, now fight a real fighter, win a belt, and I'll consider doing a third fight. Hashtag Canelo is your boss.
He talks too much.
Right now, he's moving on with his life and fighting the best middleweight in the world available to him.
This is not game. This is a real fight.
That's 100% right. This not game. I go hockey. What did Malkin say? The Russians are the best speaking English.
Oh, yeah. I'm score.
I'm scoring.
Champagne has big taste.
Hey, Don, how much time do we got till we're back on Westwood 1? Unbelievable, this guy. I heard that's a fake name, too, by the way.
Stage name.
Oh, fake-ass Don. Oh, fake-ass Don. Anyways, hit the tunes.
Oh, they're hit.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. Thankful you're listening. I would like to hear what music is being played during the commercial breaks, and then we come back with that. We're on a lot of like AM, FM, sports talk channels. I'm sure it's just like, we'll have a ball this weekend tailgating with us, and then our show comes back. It's like, just a little bit of a shakeup in the marketplace. Had a great chance to talk there about Percy Harvin loving the weed. I think it's only a matter of time before the entire world comes around on it. I think it does a lot of things for you. I don't want to be here marketing it because, people overdose on marijuana every day.
It's rampant.
It is. Barry McCockner will keep you updated on all that on the internet. The thought, though, that Jerry Jones is holding out on negotiating with Dak Prescott is a beautiful thing. The thought that Jerry Jones was waiting to see if the Kellen Moore Dak Prescott offense was going to be able to maintain the high energy, high efficiency they had the first couple weeks, just to see if he had to really pay Dak Prescott $38-40 million a year, or if they would slide down and move into a much more reasonable area. We are now joined by a Dallas Cowboys beat writer. I just learned his name, but I've seen his work before. He's an absolute legend of a man, Mr. John Machota, joining us from Dallas. How are you, John?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
John, thanks for joining us today. Okay, so the world is abuzz with Jerry Jones saying that the offensive coordinator position is the hottest seat in sports. Was he taking a direct shot at 12-year-old Kellen Moore, or is this just in general?
He is just in general, but Jerry does 2 radio interviews a week. He talks after every game, and he talks for a long time. And so if you want, you can take anything he says and turn it any way that you want. But having heard him talk and do these interviews over the last almost decade, I'd say that what he was meaning is that he understands where fans are coming from, that the Cowboys only scored 10 points after, averaging over 30 these first 3 games, and that there's going to be criticism. What I don't think he understood in the question was that the fans in Dallas aren't really criticizing Kellen Moore. They think that Kellen Moore had all the call-playing ability the first 3 games, and then suddenly it was pulled away from him, and Jason Garrett had an influence on this one. Basically what I'm getting at is that fans in Dallas, or just Cowboys fans in general, if things go well, other people get the credit. Jason Garrett never gets any credit. But when things go badly, all fingers point at Jason Garrett. And so I don't think that Jerry understood that that's where they were going, because he certainly doesn't. Kellen Moore's not on his hot seat in terms of offensive coordinator. He loves what Kellen Moore's bringing, like you mentioned, being 12 years old. He likes the new, innovative stuff that he's implementing. So no, he's certainly not on any hot seat here in Dallas.
By the way, I think that view on Coach Garrett isn't just in Dallas. I think it's the rest of the world hates the guy. Whether it's for good reason or not, the guy's been the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys for a long time. Hasn't been a ton of success, but I feel like his players like him. They respond to him. Let's talk about one of his players. The talk of Dak Prescott's pocketbook has been everywhere. Is he going to make $38 million a year? Is he going to make worth $100 million a year? We are all from outside of Dallas, so we don't really get a chance to hear the inside rumors. Is Jerry Jones just waiting to see if Dak Prescott is the Dak Prescott of old, or this new Dak Prescott the first couple weeks until he negotiates with him? And what do you think Dak Prescott's reasonable expectations are of his next contract?
I don't think Jerry's waiting. I think a big piece in this is that over a year ago, Dak Prescott switched agents from the ones he had when he was drafted and first signed with the Cowboys, and now he has Todd France, who is just a track record. Todd France just doesn't do deals. He gets his guys the highest market value they can get, and that's his reputation. And so when Dak switched over to Todd France, I think everybody around here kind of figured, oh, yeah, he's taking some team-friendly deal. He's going to get top dollar. And even with that being said, I thought the contract would get done while we were out in training camp, just because you would think you wouldn't want that looming over a quarterback's head of all positions going into a season, going into the final year of your rookie deal. But, Jerry said that it's imminent, a couple weeks ago, and obviously that's not the case because it's still not even anywhere close right now. And so at the earliest, I think it could potentially get done maybe during their bye week, week 8, so at the end of this month. But if it doesn't get that done there, I think they wait till the end of the season just because they don't want this to keep going back and forth and being a distraction for Dak. Now, I will say, if they got it done in training camp, I thought his deal would be right in with where, Goff and Wentz were at. But the longer he waits and as long as he plays well, the dollar mark just goes up. And eventually, as long as he stays healthy, I believe he'll get more than Goff or Wentz. Now, the other key piece would be Patrick Mahomes, and if Patrick Mahomes gets the huge deal, $40 million plus that everyone thinks he is, even though no one here is saying that Dak Prescott has had the success that Patrick Mahomes has as a thrower, that will still help Dak Prescott in the long run and make him more money. So the longer he waits, the more he gets. I don't think he'll get 38-40, but mid-30s, I think are certainly a possibility.
Is there any chance that Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore can't find the rhythm that they had in the first couple weeks and they continue to slide and do bad? And Jerry Jones says, you know what, we're going to go with another rookie quarterback with a small salary so I can pay everybody else, and Dak Prescott is no longer a Cowboy, or is he definitely going to be a Cowboy for the long haul?
Yeah, I mean, I would never say 100% on anything, but I'll say less than 1% chance of that happening. Everybody in that organization loves Dak Prescott, and it's not just the way he is a player, but just the leader, the face of the franchise. He's like everything they want in a Cowboys quarterback. And I know, for some people on the outside, you look at it and you're like, well, they found Tony Romo as an undrafted guy. They found Dak in the 4th round. They clearly know how to find these quarterbacks. Well, there was a huge gap between, at the end of Troy Aikman's career and when they found Tony Romo. And obviously, Jerry Jones had a front row seat for that. And at this stage in his life, I don't think he wants to go through that again. And then also the other part of this is just the fact that, they really liked other quarterbacks in this draft, in that 2016 draft over Dak. They liked several quarterbacks over Dak that Dak has outperformed. And so I don't think that they just feel like they have the secret. We can just find another quarterback and just plug him in. So I don't see really any way that Dak Prescott isn't this team's quarterback long into the future.
Who are the other quarterbacks that he's outperformed?
Oh, well, they loved Connor Cook. They were going to take Connor Cook early in the 4th round.
Is that Michigan State?
Yeah.
Michigan State.
Yeah, but in the early 4th.
No way.
In the early 4th round, they were going to take him, and they ended up going in a different direction. And then with their compensatory pick late in the 4th round, they ended up taking Dak. And then at the end of the 1st round, they had serious consideration. They were going to package their 3rd and their 2nd round pick to move back into the 1st round to get Paxton Lynch, and then that obviously didn't happen. And Jerry, even weeks after that draft, talked about how he thinks that they made a mistake and that they should have given more to trade up to get him, and that it's one of those things he'll look back and possibly have regret on. Now he said similar things about Johnny Manziel, and then they ended up taking Zach Martin, and that worked out. But they liked those two guys more than Dak in the draft, and then basically they got him in the end of the 4th round. They got lucky.
Does it feel good to finally have a Cowboys team that seems to be worth a damn? You know what I mean? Because as a national perspective here, we watch the Dallas Cowboys every single week. They're on national television for whatever reason. They have a massive fan base. The Dallas Cowboys are a electric factory. Jerry Jones, the more we can get on him on TV, the better. He also negotiates the TV deals for the NFL, so maybe there's that. But now it feels like this Cowboys team is a good team. It feels like this team really has a chance. Is that the buzz around Dallas? Like, hey, we finally got a really good squad here?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's certainly the best one that they've had since Jason Garrett became head coach in 2011. But like I said earlier, the pieces are all there. But I feel like if they come up short in any way, no matter what happens, anybody gets hurt, mistakes that are made on the field, I just feel like all the blame will go on to Jason Garrett. And that's why he's going in the final year of his deal. And if they don't what they say, quote unquote, take the next step, then they could be looking for a new head coach. Now they love Sean Payton, and obviously he signed that extension in New Orleans. So I don't think that's happening now. And I don't know who the other candidates would be out there, but the pressure has clearly been put on him from management and the front office that, hey, we need to take the next step. Next step would be, finally getting past that divisional round, which they haven't done since Super Bowl teams in the 90s. So, yeah, the feel is like, yeah, this is as talented as we've been. Maybe some will say since those Super Bowl teams, others will say since 2007. When Romo was playing at some of his best ball, but I think down here everyone feels like, hey, this is a chance to make a Super Bowl run. Let's do that. Now, after you lose to a Saints team that doesn't have Drew Brees, who is clearly one of the class teams of the NFC, I think some people are probably hitting the brakes a little bit. But no, the goal is to make a Super Bowl run this year. That is the expectation.
Are you guys all happy that Jason Witten's no longer talking into microphones?
What's funny about that is, like, Jason's always been good with us, but having that experience, like, I don't know, I feel like he's even better media-wise. He just, like, telling stories, things like that. I mean, just genuinely having a great time. I've gotten the feeling that he wasn't having very much fun calling those games, and now being around what is considerably, a young team, he really enjoys that a lot. And I think it almost makes him younger. So, I think he's having a lot more fun now than he was let's say, last year at this time.
All right, John Machota, thank you so much. We appreciate that inside breakdown on the Cowboys. This is obligatory Cowboys talk. I was told because the Cowboys move the needle, but also some really intriguing stories going on right now in Dallas. We appreciate you, John. Good luck with the Athletic.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, cheers, man. Jason Witten's legacy was almost ruined, by the way, by Monday Night Football.
Yes.
And as a fan of the Jason Witten football player and everything he does off the field, it was heartbreaking to have to listen to him every single week ruin his legacy one word, stumbling word at a time. So I'm happy he's back playing football well, by the way. Now, granted, he had a fumble last week, but he's playing football well, which is awesome. Hopefully he can get a couple years. Maybe they can get a big playoff run, and that's all people will remember. They won't even remember the Monday Night Football thing. Hopefully.
I don't know, because not you. Obviously not you, but there's a few people in this office who are trying not to let people ever forget about his Monday Night Football
Who's
days.
that?
I don't know. There were some tweets that went out when he fumbled the football. Not for me either, because I'm a nice guy. But
he fumbled the ball worse than he fumbled his words on Monday Night Football. I mean, the guy can't speak.
I'm with you there, Nick. I'm with you, buddy.
Guys, you know how hard it is talking to microphones on live games?
I don't know. You make it seem easy.
So they should get someone who's good at it.
Well, you got to pull a rabbit out of your head sometimes and really do it. Sometimes you kick yourself in the toe.
Been there.
He tried, dude. He did try his best. But I do like the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are finally good. I feel like I say this on a regular basis. It does feel like this is finally the time where all of our forced Dallas Cowboys watching and listening, it's all maybe paying off that they have a good squad here. Hopefully it happens. I don't know. Let's get to the best segment in maybe all of radio before we wrap up hour one here. Foxy, please. Wow.
That was actually on me, not on Foxy.
Let's give it one more go.
Well, yikes, ready? And
people are saying.
People are saying things, and we'd like to talk about it. Ty, what are people saying?
All right, Pat, people are saying, we just talked about it, that offensive coordinator is the hottest seat in the business of football.
I think that's an accurate statement, and let me tell you why. Because all the money that's being paid to an NFL quarterback, people refuse to believe that it's their fault. It must be the person pulling the strings, especially with this Madden generation where everybody can be an offensive coordinator. Whenever you're seeing things from a sky cam, you can break down an entire defense. You're saying, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? This works. It's just like at hockey games where people are like, shoot the puck, shoot the puck, shoot the puck. Acting as if you know more than the NHL player that is on the ice. That is what happens with offensive coordinators. Although it sounds like Jason Garrett potentially takes all the blame, I can see how offensive coordinators get blamed for a lot of things, because even when I was on the team and offensive coordinators making decisions, I'd go right up to them to their face and I'd be like, hey, seemed like it was working when we were doing tempo. What the hell? And now, granted, you've watched 70 hours of film this week. You prepared this week. You've been in the coach's lab. You've been drawing up the plays and practicing. But with my little eye, I spy a little bit of tempo has some success. Why aren't we doing that? And I get shooed away. So I can understand that is the case. It's true.
People are also saying that this weekend's Colts-Chiefs matchup is potentially the greatest matchup of young QBs in the history of football. Both quarterbacks tied for the league lead with 10 touchdowns. Both of them doing it without some of their biggest weapons. Your thoughts?
Say no more. Jacoby Brissett, Patrick Mahomes. These are the two best young quarterbacks that have ever come into the NFL. Jacoby Brissett, although they lost to the Raiders, had an incredible game last week without T.Y. Hilton, without any of his weapons, with Ebron dropping 16 passes, with a lot of things. All Jacoby Brissett does is show up and show out, while Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. So that matchup on Sunday Night Football, primetime television, is going to be one that lights up the scoreboard. I don't know what the over-under is. Hammer the over, because Jacoby Brissett, not only a member of the Wolfpack at NC State, but he's a dog. He's going to show up, as is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. We're going to be gifted to that game, by the way. That game is a treat with what Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football has been the last couple of weeks. That game's going to be an electric factor.
Agreed.
It's going to be a good one.
Football was a great game.
Yeah, it stunk.
I thought it was great.
Mason Rudolph.
The Wildcats back.
Monday Night Mason. Samuel's running Wildcat. That's about done.
People are also saying that Mattress Mac Engvall from Houston is a cheapo in a horse's ass after he laid a $3.5 million bet on the Astros to win the World Series to try to hedge giving away free mattresses if they did win the World Series.
So it's a win-win for him. He either gives away mattresses and gets his money back, or he wins $3.5 million. Good for this guy. I don't think he's a
cheapo in a horse's ass.
or a
stooge and sellout.
I think this is a smart decision, but Diggs says, no, this guy's the worst.
No. I'm on your side. This is good business. I mean, when he did this in 2017, he lost like over $10 million. So this time you had your bets, 3.5 to win $7 million. He's also got insurance, so if he does, either way, he's a winner.
I have a question. How do mattress things last? Ain't nobody ever in those stores.
No.
And when you go in there, there's 45 stinky, smelly car salesmen trying to get me to roll around on the damn beds. And you can get better mattresses delivered to your door by people like Lisa. I don't know how I think they're all front for drug money. And if this guy's gambling $3.5 million of drug money on a national public scale, good for him, man. What an absolute stud of a man.
The story that intrigued me in this is that Vegas didn't want the liability, so they wouldn't take his bet, so he had to go to Mississippi to do it.
Down there in a sip.
Which also makes me think Vegas knows the Astros are going to win, so they didn't want to take that bet.
Oh,
They're
people
not,
are
though.
saying that was an incredible thing. Poll the People has over 45,000 votes right now on which playoff from which sport is most interesting to watch. We'll get to that on the other side of the break. Plus your calls, 1-833-622-3331. It's been an incredible first hour here on this Wednesday, October 2nd. Hopefully you stick around. If not, have a good one. This is the Pat McAfee Show. Not only is Triple G about to beat the hell out of Shango this weekend in Madison Square Garden, DAZN is also the home to the best combat sports on earth.
The dream continues. He's out. Let's get ready to rumble. Anthony Joshua. Oh, yes, right hand by Joshua. Comes back with a hook. Perfected now on his heels. He's hurt. Joshua tried everything, a big right hand. And this is over.
A landmark 11-fight, $365 million deal, making Canelo the highest-paid athlete on the planet.
Callum Smith has claimed the inaugural Muhammad Ali trophy.
That is what is on the line. Here we go. Ryan Garcia. Can Rocky survive? And there's not much he can do. That was a headshot down the body, and that's to do it.
Here today to discuss a new partnership between Gennady Golovkin and DAZN. Golovkin's going to spend the rest of his career fighting here on DAZN.
That's right, to new beginnings. Welcome to Change Up alongside Scott Rogowski. I'm Adnan Berg. Every night, this is going to be the place to be.
I always wanted to know, like, as a boxer, how is it when you step into the ring, your name and career and everything you work for is on the line?
The fighting pride of all Ireland, KT Taylor.
All the suits, all the shoes, all this pretty glitz and glamour, at the end of the day, it don't mean nothing. We got to step in that ring.
You see the size difference. Jacobs is the taller man, but there is just thudding power from Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, just an outstanding performance in a title defense.
Rampage evens the series. Mamma mia!
And down goes Rojas.
Patricio Pitbull has done it! That's an elbow that's come in there, you know. What a round. And he's wobbled again. He's got down after the bell.
Big drama show continues, ladies and gentlemen. Triple G sends a message to Canelo. Here we go, round number one, heavyweight championship of the world. Ruiz comes to fire back, and Joshua's hurt. Joshua is hurt, he's staggered, and he goes down again. He says that's it. Andy Ruiz is the heavyweight champion.
It's the perfect occasion for a middle vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is, Chase Rice. I appreciate that incredible banger. Don't be scared to sing that thing around town and spread the word about this show. If you're coming from another show, know that the first hour was incredible and you missed something. I'm joined by an incredible group of gentlemen here in this 11 o'clock hour American Standard Time on this Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. DJ at Nick Moraldo's on the ones and twos. At Tone Diggs is making Dan Orlovsky mad. At Todd McComas, at Ty Schmidt, at Viva Lazito, at Evan Foxy, and at Bubba Gumpy, who's going back to Canada here so we can finally pay him for his work because we're not allowed to pay him when he's in America because he's a Canadian citizen and it's tough to get the job done. Gumpy, I think there's no chance you make it back after you go back to Canada, but it's been a fun run with you here, Mike.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you, Pat.
This afternoon, immediately after the show, we will be recording phoners from people who call 1-833-622-3331 from 12 to 12:30 for tomorrow's podcast. We'll then be hopping on a plane to travel to Orlando for NXT's 2-hour live debut on USA Network, where I'll be a part of the pre-show. Might be my last WWE event, to be honest. I'll be excited to see how that all goes. Then we fly right over to ECU. We'll be doing the show live from their campus tomorrow morning. Then it is Thursday Night Football as the Temple Owls travel in to take on the Pirates of East Carolina. I know nothing about those two teams. I've done zero research thus far, but I'm going to dive into it on the plane today. Hopefully I learn all about them. Hopefully it'll be a good game. Speaking of good games, Kirk Cousins hasn't had a lot of them. We chatted about this in the first hour. This guy is an interesting character. He's from Michigan State. That can't be stated enough. He went to Michigan State. He was a Spartan. He was drafted behind RG3. So everybody said whenever RG3 had his struggles, now granted, I heard stories about a young RG3 not being able to handle being a professional quarterback well, showing up late to meetings, wearing headphones, kind of acting privileged, mostly because the Redskins traded around 4 first-round picks, basically did the entire organization to get him there. So the thought was always like, well, Kirk Cousins is there. He can still play football well. Kirk Cousins was his answer. Kirk Cousins was his answer. Then he played for the Redskins for a little bit. I guess he did well. He won some games. He earned himself a couple contracts. They're all guaranteed, one from the Jets and one from the Minnesota Vikings. The Minneapolis Miracle happens. To hell with it. Get Case Keenum the hell out of here. Biggest moment maybe in the sports history, maybe in Minnesota Vikings history. Nah, I'm sure they won something big. I don't know.
No, they haven't.
I think that is the biggest moment in their franchise's history.
All right, so let's get the quarterback out. Let's get him the hell out of here. Not good enough. Can't win with him. Won't win with him. We did win with him, but won't in the future. So let's get him out of here. We need a new quarterback. It's Kirk Cousins. Unprecedented deal where they give him $84 million guaranteed. Everybody's like, whoa, this is like an NBA contract. Is this the changing of the way NFL contracts are going to be handled? This is a big deal. Minnesota Vikings fans, Minnesota nice is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
You got people from like Slovakia over there. They're real like Vikings, aren't they? I mean, everybody over there is like 6'4".
Mm-hmm. Well, not from Slovakia, but yeah.
What's that?
Scandinavia.
You get it. You get it. Anyways, Minnesota people are good people. So whenever they hear about this $84 million contract, the first thing you do is you go, hey, this guy, we got a guy. We just got rid of the Minneapolis Miracle guy, which brought us probably the most happiness we've ever experienced in our life. Let's get rid of him. Now we got Kirk Cousins. We got a guy. Kirk Cousins has been a bit underwhelming as their quarterback, and Minnesota Nice says that we will keep giving him chances because he's our guy, and I can appreciate and respect that. I've been on the slate of, I bet you Kirk Cousins is a nice guy. He seems like a nerd. I'm not sure we would be friends, but whenever you get paid $84 million, expectations are set. For the last year or so, those expectations have not been met. So after the game this past weekend, after another miserable performance by Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, in a little bit of an emotional response, says, to be a good football team, you have to be well-rounded. You have to be balanced. You can't just rush for 400 yards every game, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't his exact quote, but he alluded to the fact that we can't complete any passes, and a lot of people took it as a shot at Kirk Cousins for good reason, because we have been watching Kirk Cousins not play good football for a long time, so we're automatically assuming that wide receivers who like the ball, that's their whole purpose in the world, is to catch footballs, could be upset with his quarterback not getting him the ball. He said it wasn't about that. It was a broad sense. It wasn't a shot at Kirk Cousins. It wasn't that. It was just emotion, which, by the way, I don't like that people were trying to bury Adam Thielen when he gave a real answer for the first time. This is the problem with media these days. Whenever a player doesn't give a candid or gives a candid, not a standard cookie cutter answer, all of a sudden they get buried. Like, oh, they're throwing people under the bus. Oh, bad team. Oh, prima donna people were calling him. Adam Thielen came up through the ranks where he had to earn every single thing he's ever gotten. He's like a 5'10" white guy who hits a 3-wood 315 yards, who got 0 looks at the NFL, had to go through the regional combine where he had to pay for it. The NFL has even almost admitted that those regional combines are just a fugazi. They're a scam. They're just a way to collect money and maybe find an ex-Vince Papale, who, by the way, Adam Thielen is the real-life Vince Papale. Vince Papale played special teams for the Eagles. He didn't do all the stuff that you saw in the Invincible movie, but Adam Thielen has done everything that you've seen on TV. He's become one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So people taking shots at him as a person, I don't respect or like because of the journey that he had to take to get to where he is right now. Kirk Cousins, though, said, even if he wasn't taking a shot at me, is it too late for me to say sorry? 'Cause my throws are missing more than just your body. He apologized on the Kirk Cousins show. The Kirk Cousins show, which none of us knew existed. So it was a great little marketing thing, great way to get clicks, which I wouldn't put it past smart Kirk Cousins to know that this is going to get clicks if I talk about one of the hottest topics in the NFL right now, who just so happened to involve me. So on the Kirk Cousins show, which is rating through the roof right now.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It's top 5 sports podcast right now.
Crushing.
Taking over.
Crushing. The Minnesota Vikings website is getting more views and more clicks than they have gotten in a long time. Right now, the person that runs the Minnesota Vikings website is walking into the owner of the Minnesota Vikings saying, look at how good I'm doing. Look at this. We should start selling banner ads. We should start doing this. It's like Will Ferrell in the Between Two Ferns movie with the click number right above the head at all times. Not a bad movie, by the way. I watched it. It wasn't bad. I laughed.
I enjoyed it.
I was on that Percy Harvin, though, so.
Interviews were great.
Interviews were great. But Kirk Cousins on the Kirk Cousins show comes out and apologizes and says, I have to get Adam Thielen the ball more. I have to be able to complete passes to him. Not only is he the best wide receiver, he's been around, he's one of the best players in the world, and he can understand why he's upset. Then people start burying Kirk Cousins for that. So Adam Thielen comes out with a candid remark. People start burying him. Kirk Cousins finally takes some accountability, which we don't see in the world anymore, especially by players that are getting paid $84 million guaranteed. He can just take his money, go to the bank, suck fest for the rest of his career in Minnesota, retire, disappear, probably start an IT firm or whatever the hell he's going to get into, how smart he is, and just disappear. But instead, he decides to apologize, and now people are calling him weak. People are calling him soft. They're saying Tom Brady wouldn't do that. Aaron Rodgers wouldn't do that. Peyton Manning wouldn't have done that. It's like, yeah, those guys have all won Super Bowl, though. Those guys are all historically top 3 quarterbacks. Those guys are all historically the greatest in the game, so they don't owe anybody an apology if they have a bad game, because that happens. Kirk Cousins, though, has had about 18 bad games in a row now at the point. And he's making $84 million, which can't go understated enough, because when money comes in, expectations come as well. So him apologizing to Adam Thielen, I didn't think it was soft. I didn't think it was weak. I thought it was actually fantastic. I thought it was nice to hear a little accountability, especially from an NFL quarterback who's getting paid a lot of money, where expectations have not been met by him, himself, I'd assume. He's probably hard on himself, the team, and definitely us, because we think he stinks.
Do you think that apology was said to Thielen, but more so meant for the fans and the Minnesota Vikings fans?
I think so. And I think that was him just admitting that he has not performed the way that he thought he was going to, that they probably thought he was going to, that his teammates thought he was going to. And by the way, we're still early enough in the season where Kirk Cousins can spin this whole thing around and rename and rewrite his entire legacy as a football quarterback in the NFL. I don't like how public this has been, though. And I think that is my problem with everything. I recounted a story where I had a bad hold for Adam Vinatieri in the fourth quarter of a game. It was my only bad hold, by the way. Just want to let that be known. You don't hear about all the other ones, but you heard about this one because after the game, I literally said I gave him a bad hold. I gave him no chance. It was against the Cincinnati Bengals. I apologized to him personally, but I wanted the public to know that I don't know if this was talked about on the telecast, but I gave Vinatieri a bad hold. It gave him no shot. It ended up in the newspaper the next day that Pat gave Vinatieri no chance, basically, blah, blah, blah. So everybody heard about me having a bad hold, which I think Vinatieri appreciated. right? Because I was willing to stand out there and say, hey, the greatest kicker of all time didn't miss that by himself. He missed that because of me. That type of thing can go a long way in the locker room, I believe. So what Kirk Cousins did on the Kirk Cousins show, which can be found on a Minnesota Vikings website, which is probably getting massive amounts of clicks right now, being talked about on every single show, I think that's going to do well in the locker room. Not that they didn't like him, not that they don't like him, but there might have been a little bit of a tide turning against him, saying, man, this guy's a bum. You know, we got a running back that's running for 175 yards. We got a quarterback that we're paying $84 million. He can't complete a pass. This guy stinks. It's only a matter of time before people start thinking that. You heard it start to leak out through Zimmer. You heard it start to leak out a little bit, the frustrations. But whenever you take accountability like this, it can really change the direction of an entire season, especially in the locker room. Hopefully it does that for the Minnesota people.
But now he has to actually go out and do it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't just turn around next week and be like, oh, God, I played terrible again. I got to get these guys the ball.
Sorry again. Yeah.
What if he does? What if it just becomes the year of Kirk Cousins going, 2 weeks ago I said it, but I think I have to. I can't throw a completion right now. I don't know. I know I'm paid to do that. I know this team thinks I'm going to be good. They paid me a lot of money. They had the Minneapolis Miracle. I come in afterwards, dud. But I don't even know how to right this ship. I'm going to be honest. We're sinking bad. I wish Zimmer would just bench me, but he can't because they paid me so much money. I'm just going to continue to miss wide open passes, and let's just hope Dalvin Cook can continue to get loose.
Well, if he does not play well this weekend against the New York Giants defense, then it's some big problems.
The New York Giants defense is a completely revamped defense.
Janoris Jenkins was the NFC
really
Defensive Player of the Week.
Defensive Player of the Week. Really good. By the way, the fact that Good Morning Football gets to announce those as like an award ceremony every week, brilliant.
Pretty neat.
I'm happy the NFL did that for them. That's a pretty good thing. We didn't know that happened until today, by the way. I won AFC Special Teams Player of the Week and month one time, week a couple times. I had no idea that thing debuted on Good Morning Football. Good for them. Little award show every single Wednesday. But that Giants defense, I talked about this a couple times already this week. Daniel Jones, the trait that he's not getting enough credit for was the ability to bring life back to that Giants locker room that seemed to be lost. The soul had been sucked out of that locker room because they knew that Eli Manning, they knew that their team was going to stink. They traded Odell Beckham out of there. They got rid of Collins. They got rid of a bunch of people. It was like a sinking ship. And when you go into work, yes, you're trying to earn your paycheck. Yes, you're trying to be the best football player you can be. Yes, you're trying to be the best teammate you can be. But in the end, you have no hope. So whenever things start going bad, there's an easy way to give up. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to give the extra effort here to do this because I know that in the end, we got no shot. What Daniel Jones has been able to do, for all of his flaws, for all of the hate that he received after the draft, he's ignited something in that locker room where there's hope again for the New York Giants. That defense, since Daniel Jones has gotten in, started to play, have created 5 turnovers. When Eli was playing this year, 0 turnovers. The opposing team's QBR, when playing against the Daniel Jones New York Giants, is down 50% as opposed to whenever they play against Eli Manning's New York Giants. There's a fresh energy in New York. And I got a chance to talk to old Skipper, John Skipper, legend of a man. You've heard stories about him. I finally got to meet him for the first time. Incredible handshake. Had no idea he was a Southern man. And I guess he's a good time, but he was a very nice guy. He told me, he said, in all walks of life, whenever there's turnover or a new person in a situation, there's a refreshing, there's an energy amongst around them because they feel like, okay, this is starting anew. This is kind of like a rebirth. Here we go. And if there's success, it'll remain. And then if you fall off, though, it goes back to the status quo. Daniel Jones has had success early. They've seen success. They've had happiness. They haven't had there in a long time. There's hope back in the fan base and in the building. I think Daniel Jones has done a lot for the New York Giants. I think their defense is going to perform well, but I don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to be able to complete a pass. I don't know.
I've heard a lot of people saying this week, based off of what you said, you don't just walk into Danny's world anymore and expect an easy W.
Danny's world.
Danny's house.
So it's, what is it, Jerry World, right, down there in Dallas. Which, by the way, a lot of drama going on in Dallas, as there always is. Jerry Jones comes out and says that the offensive coordinator is the hottest seat in football or whatever. And some people said, is that the Kellen Moore? Is that directly at the 12-year-old Kellen Moore? We got a chance to talk to John Machado, beat writer, which I don't know what that means, beat writer. I still don't know what that means. I don't know why we still use the phrase, but he writes words for The Athletic about the Dallas Cowboys. He said Jerry was speaking in a broad sense about the NFL. He's a guy who's been around the NFL for a long time, but as a media person, can't help but think that was against them. But now you're saying MetLife Stadium is Danny World?
It's a shame that he doesn't play in a dome. MetLife should think about putting one over top.
Well, if they put a
Danny's
dome in
dome.
there,
Danny's dome.
got to know your clearance, because a lot of people are saying MetLife Stadium is Zito's house.
Whose house?
Zito's house.
He almost brought down a house.
Zito did bring down a house. Zito took an RV right into MetLife Stadium and plowed through an awning.
Behind the scenes coming soon.
Behind the scenes coming soon. Yes. We have that entire documentary up right now on the YouTube. It's worth a watch if you're new to our show. Zito literally caused $45,000 in damage, not only to an RV, but to MetLife Stadium. And we have a documentary about the entire thing. And Finn Balor, WWE wrestler, just so happened to be filming the entire thing from another car. So we have numerous angles on this Zito RV cluster truck, literally. And it's worth a watch. But right behind Zito, I would believe that is Danny's house. Mm-hmm. Sam Darnold's making out with 12-year-olds in that house, getting mono. Could be Le'Veon Bell's house if he finds hope, but it seems like he wants to be back in Pittsburgh. I think New York has a guy, and I think Dallas potentially has a guy for the long haul, which we'll talk about on the other side of the break here. 11/17, Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. If you're watching along at home, that's Zito's RV underneath the awning at MetLife Stadium. And that's the $45,000 worth of damage he did WrestleMania day. He had a WrestleMania moment. It wasn't a great one. Speaking of, NXT on USA Network tonight. Worth a watch, even if you're not a wrestling fan. It's Cirque du Soleil type athleticism with storytelling, and the environment is electric. We'll be down there for it. Should be a lot of fun. 11/17, you're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. After last night's National League wildcard game,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
nailed it. I watched it. I absolutely watched it. Parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
First 7 innings, absolute snooze fest. Milwaukee Brewers up 3-1 in Washington. The crowd was out of it a little bit. They're like, man, we suck again. Then all of a sudden in the 8th inning, 20-year-old kid named Cotto,
Juan Soto.
you name it, hits a single, drives in 3 runs. All of a sudden it's 4-3. The Washington Nationals get a edge-of-the-seat win to extend their baseball season. Milwaukee Brewers, go home. You played 175 games, all for that. You're up 3-1, and in the 8th inning, you gave it up to a 20-year-old. It was electrifying. It was magnetic. It was incredible on the television. I was switching back and forth between that and Diego Maradona, who happened to love the cocaine, I learned. Really good soccer player, but boy, what a life he lived. That was an incredible documentary on HBO if you haven't seen it. But let's get back to the National League wildcard game. I posed the question this morning to the boys. I said, which playoff is most exciting and best to watch? We polled the people of the Twitter. And I'll tell you what, this is a hot topic. So far, we have 46,000 votes. Okay? 46,000 votes in under 3 hours. 11% say the NBA. That's quite a big sample size, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Of the 4 major sports, it's NFL, NHL, MLB, NBA. 11% said the NBA. The NBA, I think everybody thinks is rigged. I think everybody thinks the playoffs are rigged. It's a 7-game series. If there's big-name players in the game, it's going to get to 7 or they're going to sweep quickly. I think everybody kind of expects what's going to happen and predicts what's going to happen in the NBA. Not sure if that's accurate or not. Foxy, you're a big-time NBA guy. Is that the general consensus in your eyes?
Yeah, everyone just knows, like, the Warriors going in, they're going to win it. But I'm going to defend the NBA by saying, first off, they didn't win it this year. Second off,
made it to the finals, though.
Yeah, you get it, though. And second off, you could say that about the NFL. The Pats win it every single year.
Nah, can't say it because they actually suspended Tom Brady. I think there's a little bit of legitimacy. People know that if LeBron James gets into the playoffs, people are going to assume that he's going to be favored more than everybody else. And probably for good reason. The guy's done a lot for the sports. But some of those Cavalier teams that he took to the finals or whatever were terrible at basketball.
Bad teams that they made it through. And especially being a Pacer fan back in the day. I mean, I guess I'm currently kind of one. But I don't know anybody on the team. I don't know the coach. Back in the day, I was friends with like Vogel. I was friends with a lot of the players.
Right.
Now I don't know anybody. They haven't really reached out. So to hell with them. My NBA allegiance is up. But I do like whenever they win because the city's happier. But back whenever I was watching with the Heat and the Pacers, we all knew that game was going to go to 7. Everybody knew, even watching in the arena. I bought 5,000 tickets one time for the Indiana Pacers and gave them out for free for a playoff game against the Heat so we could pack the house. I don't think I've gotten many thank yous since for that whole thing. But I think that's why people judge the NBA is because the general consensus is, and this might be Tim Donaghy's fault, to be honest with you. This might be the ref that got caught fixing games' fault, that people just automatically assume in the NBA the refs can control it, the league can control it, and it's going to be favored to the big stars. Whether it's true or not. I'm not saying it is true. I'm just saying this is what people think. That's why I think it got 11% of the votes out of 46,632 votes.
I'm pretty shocked by that, actually. But also, if you're talking about just watching it, like in terms of like how the TV coverage, I think that's the best out of any sport too. I think the TNT crew, you got Charles Barkley, you got Shaq, you got all those guys. No one ever complains about how they do it on the TV. Also, NBA Twitter, best Twitter out there.
I can agree with that. NBA Twitter is fantastic. I can agree that Charles, Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie are an incredible foursome there on the television. I think it's great television, but that has nothing to do with the actual games.
You're watching it. Yes, it does. Your question
games.
was which sports playoff is the best to watch. That's all a part of the watching experience.
So you're taking the pre-shows into account?
Absolutely.
I mean,
He has to. He's only
it.
got 11%.
You have to watch it on TV.
You have to watch it on TV. Twitter's a part of the watching experience.
I think this year will be different, though, because there's a lot of good teams than in past where it's just Cleveland and Golden State guaranteed.
I think so, too. I mean, maybe. I like watching the NBA playoffs. I would like it to be known because I think the NBA players, they're all 6'10". They can do incredible things. I like watching great athletes do great athletic things, but I can argue that since it's a 7-game series, not as exciting as a potential any given day a team can get a win.
True.
Which is why I was surprised by this, especially with what have you done for me lately syndrome that happens on the internet. The MLB came in third place out of the 4 with 17% of the votes. In Ty, I told you that I thought baseball playoff were a joke. And last night, 90% of the population fell asleep before that baseball game could get good. I think that is the problem with baseball. It's too slow, too long. But you're saying, no, that's what makes it good.
Well, I mean, no. To your point there, that's why it's never going to be number one, why it's never going to top the NFL. But if you like baseball, especially since they changed and they started doing these one-game wild cards, like those are packed with drama. You don't get that in the series, obviously, but like literally last night, like every pitch mattered. So if you actually like baseball, I mean, it magnifies everything. Everything is a lot more important. You don't have one of the issues where like if you're just watching a random baseball game on a Wednesday, there's a chance that like 3 or 4 scrubs are playing. Like these are these guys' best lineups, their best pitchers out there. Like it's the matchup that everyone wants to see. And I mean, over the last couple of years, like we've had games like this where everything comes down to the last inning, one of the last at bats. Like it just the drama is a lot better than your average baseball. And granted, it's still, I mean, like I said, it's never going to surpass the NFL or anything like that. But if you're comparing it to regular season baseball, postseason baseball is almost like it feels like a different sport almost.
Give me that.
Let him take steroids.
I agree. I agree 1,000%.
I watched Screwball. I watched Screwball there by Billy Corbin, the guy that made Cocaine Cowboys. Interesting that A-Rod that was a hit piece on A-Rod.
Yeah, for sure.
That was an absolute hit piece on A-Rod. Tony Bosch, the guy that ran Biogenesis, basically just an incredible hustler. Went to Belize to get a medical degree, and now he went to jail for like 4 years or whatever it was. And he was just naming people. He was like, I remember this kid. He's a Manny Ramirez, maybe sleeping in the same room as him, telling bedtime stories. I'm like, hey, Tony, a little bit aggressive here, a little bit of a burial of people. But he went after A-Rod in that thing. And to be honest, I think baseball should have thanked him. Like George Bush, who was the owner of the Rangers, who said steroids in baseball is a bad thing. I think George Bush should have been thanking him too. Like, hey, thanks for making our sport interesting to more people than just the baseball enthusiasts, because these big mongoloids are stepping into the batter's box and hitting balls out of parks. So it's hard. I mean, I guess everything's got to be fair, but
highest ratings baseball has ever had was when McGuire and Sosa were in the home run race, and those guys were openly like McGuire had a bottle of Andro sitting in his locker, like when he'd get interviewed after the games, like he was just popping horse pills, and they didn't care, but it was awesome because
good old days.
Yeah, those guys were hitting 700-foot homers, and everyone wanted to watch it.
I mean, I think I even enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and I never played baseball. I never played baseball a day in my life growing up. The only time I ever played baseball was professionally. You can get that documentary now, by the way.
You wouldn't have made that error last night in right field, I'll tell you that much.
Damn right I wouldn't have.
First error of the entire season. That's tough for that guy.
Yeah.
But that is why playoff baseball is electrifying.
Exactly.
Because every ball counts. Speaking of sport without a ball, in second place, the NHL got 29% of the votes, which has to feel good for Nick, our standard hockey correspondent. I would argue that NHL playoffs are electrifying. I love the NHL playoffs. I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I would have thought they would have done better against the NFL, who's in first place with 43%. But NHL playoffs deserve a lot of credit, and I'm happy that they're above these other two in this particular poll.
Yeah, and I think the only reason they don't beat out the NFL is because the one game in the NFL means so much compared to a 7-game series. But I would argue the 7-game series gives you a better chance to prove who the better team is, and there's no fluky wins there. If you win straight up 7 games, 4 games out of 7, you are the best team on the ice. There's no debate about it.
The reason why it didn't win is because 45% of the country has no idea that the NHL even exists.
That could be part of it.
Yeah, the NHL stinks at marketing hockey. The NHL owners are stupid. The game is incredible. The players never talk, really. I mean, Spittin' Chicklets is literally the best thing that could ever happen to hockey because it showcases that people that play hockey have good personalities. But the NHL, I can argue, are the worst at marketing their sport in the history of marketing sports.
Easily.
People that have no idea that hockey even... Indiana, right here, there are 0 votes for the NHL in this thing, for this entire state. They don't even know hockey happens. The only thing they know is like, oh, is that little junior thing where we go and watch little kids fight each other on the ice and then we leave and then there's like a little horn. That's all they really know. But anybody who knows hockey is like, hockey, playoff hockey is awesome. That's why I'm happy I grew up in Pittsburgh. I got to experience it. And on the flip side, since I grew up in Pittsburgh, it's why I probably hate baseball.
Yeah, also easily. I mean, it's the best trophy in sports. They got the best traditions in sports, the handshake line. I mean, where else can you beat the hell out of each other and then be gentlemen about it afterwards? We just want the war
Every
for
single
7
football
games.
game.
You
UFC,
honestly like the handshake line?
Yeah, you
Nick?
got to respect the handshake line. These guys go out there and they're playing through these injuries, they break each other's bones. Patrice Bergeron in 2013, listen to this, broken rib, torn cartilage, muscle tissue, separated shoulder, and a punctured lung.
Welcome
Played
to
through
week
all
3
of
of the
that.
NFL.
Please, ain't nobody playing through a punctured lung in the NFL.
And that's hockey talk. Hockey starts tonight.
Yes.
See, nobody even knew. That's the problem with the NHL. Nobody even knew that the NHL starts tonight because we're in the middle of WNBA season and NFL season and MLB season. WNBA is getting more marketing right now that it's starting than hockey. You literally have to turn on the NHL network to find out that NHL is happening, and that's because the owners are a bunch of
stooges and sellouts.
Great sport, terrible league.
And it's a great way to
Everyone
describe
knows it.
That's a great way to describe it. And number one, best playoff to watch by far, and it's probably because a lot of my followers are NFL fans because they're red-blooded Americans. 46,000 votes with 43% of the vote. NFL wins.
Yeah, I mean, and this was obvious. And you don't have to be a red-blooded American to love the NFL. The NFL, people have been playing football. The Romans, the Greeks, the Sumerians, the Mayans, the gods were playing football. It's all of the best of all the other sports rolled into one sport. If you took like 50% of the NFL athletes, they would go to these other sports and just dominate them.
Yep.
You only have one game. All the pressure, everything is on the line for one game.
Mm-hmm. All those off-season workouts.
All of them.
Training camp, whenever you're sleeping in a dormitory that's got a public bathroom where you can accidentally run into a 350-pounder taking a leak.
Snow.
Am I allowed to say what I just said?
I don't think so.
Snow, wind, ice,
race the board,
fog.
I think the NFL playoffs are.
If those don't do it for you, let me tell you some numbers, okay?
Okay.
These are the champions. This is the conference championships for each of these sports.
Okay.
NHL average 2 million viewers.
Okay, that's not bad, by the way. Good for hockey.
MLB 6 million.
Wow.
NBA 9 million.
Whoa.
NFL 1.3 billion viewers.
Well, that's what we call a landslide, Bob.
I might have skewed that a little bit, but it's close.
I think the NFL playoffs are right. I think the any given Sunday mindset that your team is either going to go on and make history or completely disappear because it's so hard to make it into the dance. All you're asking to do if you're an NFL team is make it into the playoffs, and all you have is one chance to prove yourself. Your quarterback gets mono. Doesn't matter. The game will be played. Your wide receiver hurt his hand. Your corner stabbed himself in the leg the night before or got stabbed by a girlfriend. He picks up a fumble and he can't take it the other way. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have 6 other opportunities to potentially win. That's why the NFL will always be king here in America. Although I think the NHL, if they marketed themselves just a tiny bit, I think they would grow their percentage. But I like to see that the NBA and the MLB are at the bottom of the pack because that rings true to my thought that how I feel is how everybody else feels. I'm the most basic human on earth. The way I feel about things is normally how other people feel about things. And this is exactly how I feel. This is exactly how I would put it. I might have put the NBA above the MLB, but after watching last night in the electrifying 8th inning that was 4 hours into the game, I thought that was an incredible thing. I thought, what have you done for me lately could potentially be the thing. But the NBA comes in last place. That's tough, especially for a league that prides itself on dominating on social media and marketing, Fox.
You need a red zone for baseball.
Hey,
that's for sure.
I think people are forgetting when Paul Pierce pooped his pants,
go.
got carted off in a wheelchair, came back, led the Celtics to a victory.
He pooped his pants?
That's what they say. And you don't get that drama in any other sport.
3 poop sticks.
I didn't know Paul Pierce pooped his pants. That's why he was taken off there.
That was his out. He came out this year and said that.
That's why I needed the wheelchair.
Yep. You're not getting that in any other sports.
Guys poop their pants all the time in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Not on purpose, though. It's the CTE. Speaking of pooping your pants, Kellen Moore might be doing that this morning after what Jerry Jones said last night. We'll chat about that on the other side. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show. Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here on Westwood One and Worldwide. On the DAZN app. Our stream just got cut from DAZN. Thought that was on purpose. I didn't know what we did wrong. I was excited to hear it. We got to talk up the MLB a little bit more, I guess. I don't know. Baseball's great. The topic this morning around all the other talking head shows was Kirk Cousins apologizing, which I think it was great that he showed a little accountability there. But will he be able to play good football? I have no idea. I said the Minnesota nice thing could potentially wear off from the Vikings fans if he continues to suck. And I got some tweets, by the way, from people in Minnesota. They say the Minnesota nice thing, it doesn't mean they're nice. It means it's passive-aggressive, which I can respect. I don't know if that paints them as a whole, but I think they are genuinely a nice group of humans. Also, big news this morning is Jerry Jones saying that the offensive coordinator position is always the hottest seat, basically, in town. We got a chance to talk to John Machado, who writes words for The Athletic about the Dallas Cowboys earlier today. And he told us that he doesn't think it was directly a shot at Kellen Moore. He thinks more Jerry Jones has a lot of exposure. He has 2 shows a week. He's talking a lot. He does interviews after games. You can take a lot of his words out of context when really the man was just talking about the sport of football in general, who he's one of the stalwarts of football. He's been around for a long time. So I think he was almost just saying, like, hey, yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a hot seat no matter what. But I do think Jerry Jones, if Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott can't figure it out, if they're more like the Saints game than they were like the Giants game, I assume there's going to be a lot of question marks. But I was told on good authority, John Machado, that Dak Prescott is 100%, 99% the future of the Dallas Cowboys, no matter what happens the next couple weeks. They're playing the New York Giants, Danny Dimes and the New York Giants. By the way, I like the nickname. Has anybody asked Daniel Jones if he likes the nickname Danny Dimes?
Probably not.
Why has nobody asked Danny Dimes if he likes the name Danny Dimes? Because now all I got to hear is these lame-ass journalist people saying, the name Danny Dimes isn't a good name.
I like it.
I like Danny Dimes a lot.
It's great.
Guy throws dimes.
It's alliteration.
It's better than the Dilfer Dime.
For sure.
Better than the Dilfer Dime. I like Danny Dimes. What other nickname will you give a guy? Mr. Jones?
Danny Backpacks.
Danny Backpacks?
Too loud. Enjoy that. Pretty good.
Danny Backpacks. All right, maybe we start calling him Danny Backpacks. Danny Backpack and that New York Giants team
I like it.
has become a better team since Daniel Jones has become the quarterback because it's been a rejuvenated locker room, it feels like. The defense has created 5 turnovers. Whenever Eli was quarterback this year, 0 turnovers. The QBR of the opposing team down 50% whenever Daniel Jones is quarterback versus when Eli Manning is the quarterback. But Dak Prescott has quite a challenge this weekend to live up to the hype, live up to a potential $100 million contract, live up to everything with he and Kellen Moore, and I assume they went to work this weekend, but it ain't going to be no cakewalk. It ain't going to be nothing to sneeze at when you go into Danny's world, as Diggs calls it, in MetLife Stadium and take on the New York Giants.
I got an update on that from Giants fans on the Twitterverse. Yep. They're calling it Danny's domain.
I think maybe
I like it.
We should workshop that one.
They get Golden Tate back this weekend, too.
Golden Tate, who got punched in the face by Percy Harvin. Percy came out and told that story to Bleacher Report. Percy Harvin said he was high every single football game he played in the NFL due to his incredible anxiety levels and other things he has to deal with. Instead of taking the 7 prescribed medicines that pharmaceuticals were giving him, he decided to turn to marijuana instead. It said it helped him a lot. But Percy Harvin said he also punched Golden Tate in the face.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Which is a very interesting situation because other than Geno Smith getting punched in the face, which is not good for a quarterback, I haven't heard a lot of stories of people getting punched in the face in the locker room and it ending up good for either party.
It was right before the Super Bowl team photo. So they said it was a very awkward situation if you look at the photo.
Why, has Golden Tate got a little shiner?
That's what he said in the story.
He's got a little shiner balk?
Mm-hmm.
Zito could probably find that there right now. I think Zito's probably hitting the internet hard. I think Danny Dimes continues the win streak here against the Dallas Cowboys. I think there's going to be panic in Dallas about whether or not Kellen...
Vikings this weekend.
Yikes.
Cowboys are at home against the Packers.
Yikes.
I love the Giants plus 5.5 at home.
Against who?
Vikings.
Oh, yeah. Kirk Cousins got no chance going in.
Especially if it's windy in the Meadowlands.
Oh, MetLife. He's got no shot. So Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, who have a little controversy happening over there, a little bit of drama, a little bit of talk about whose guy is what, go into the New York Giants this weekend and they're minus 5.5.
Yes, sir.
And you like the Vikings minus 5.5?
No, I like the Giants plus the 5.5.
Yes, absolutely. At home.
Yep.
What does Vegas know that we don't know? How is that not the easiest? There's going to be 90% of the money is going to be on the Giants for sure. And that means we're going to lose. So that means something's going to happen. But how does Danny Dimes not get the win this weekend against the Vikings? I just don't see how it happens, especially with that defense who's been eating greedy, getting hungry since they have a rejuvenated feel in there. I don't know. I am intrigued to see how Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys do this weekend, though. I'm intrigued to see how that goes.
70% of the money is actually on the Vikings.
Great news. That's good news for us.
Good test for him. Great defense.
Oh, Kirk Cousins?
No, for Danny. Danny
Yes, it
Dimes. This is the toughest defense he's probably faced.
This is a very good defense. Now, granted, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No slouch.
No slouch. I think what Bruce Arians has been able to do down there is a whole new ballgame. I think Tampa Bay is potentially a real team. Or they just got very lucky against the Los Angeles Rams team that decided to play like garbage one particular day, and Jameis decided to learn how to throw for a weekend.
We talked about it could be a letdown for the Rams because it was sandwiched between two primetime games against the Browns and the Seahawks. So it was a potential letdown for the Rams.
So the Rams have the Seahawks this weekend?
Yeah, Thursday night.
Rams didn't look good against the Browns either, though, to be honest.
Jared Goff looks off this year.
He does.
And not that Jared Goff ever looked incredible. I think he put up big numbers because the whiz kid Sean McVay was able to really dial up incredible things. He had great weapons. Todd Gurley was hot. Now it seems like there's a whole different attitude over there. It seems like it's just a different team this year all of a sudden. Not that they won't win games. I assume they're going to win games. But it doesn't feel as if it's the same Rams of the past.
I saw an offensive stat that said like their philosophy has basically changed this year. Like they relied on Gurley a lot more this year, and I think they only had like 38% of their snaps had come out of shotgun, and they're near like 50% this year.
They threw 68 times on Sunday.
That's winning football. That is winning football. Isn't it intriguing whenever you look at those stats? Like Lamar Jackson threw the ball 43 times that game that he was terrible in. And it's like going into the game, does the offensive coordinator, does Sean McVay know, like, hey, we're going to throw the ball 68 times? How many times?
68.
68 times. Not even the fact that we're going to get 68 offensive plays. Like, that's a lot of offensive plays. We are going to throw the ball 68 times. And that Todd Gurley situation has been very interesting. Going back to the playoffs last year where he said he wasn't hurt, they said he was hurt. Going into the offseason, there's a lot of question marks on whether or not Todd Gurley was going to be healthy this year. I'm intrigued by the LA Rams, man. I'm very intrigued by it because when Goff was on his rookie deal before he got broken off, they were able to bring in so many pieces around him. It was like the Seattle Seahawks with the Legion of Boom and a young Russell Wilson. I was thinking that's potentially the new model, which, by the way, still could be the case, especially with a lot of these starters either getting hurt or getting benched for these young quarterbacks who are going to have success. Kyle Allen in Carolina Panthers, if he continues to win and old Cam Newton comes back from his Lisa Frank. What's her name, Liz?
Liz, yeah.
What do? Do you bench Kyle Allen? Do you go, hey, bud, you've been throwing for 400 yards, you've been winning, but our franchise guy that we paid a lot of money to, who does a lot of things for us and has won a lot of games for us, he's healthy now, so we're going to put him back in. You got to sit on the bench. Are the Carolina Panthers fans going to be like, okay, we'll give Cam Newton one incompletion, and then we want Kyle Allen back? Is that what's going to happen? Same thing in the Chicago Bears world. They got Chase Daniel in there. Mitchell Trubisky's going to be on the bench here for a couple of weeks, healing that shoulder. If Chase Daniel has success and Mitch Trubisky gets healthy, do they put Mitch Trubisky back in, knowing that if he has just a little bit of failure and isn't hot, everybody's going to be wanting Chase Daniel back? I don't know what's going to happen there. Is the grass greener on the other side? A lot of people want to know that, and a lot of people are learning that. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. The Arizona Cardinals had a bad coach last year. They decided to get a new young coach this year, number one pick, do all these things. They have yet to win a game. They haven't lost every game because they tied, but they have yet to win a game. That's a tough situation. Are young quarterbacks the future of the NFL? Rookie contracts, build up around them, and keep it moving. That's why I asked, is Dak Prescott potentially not going to be the quarterback of the future so that Jerry Jones can get another young quarterback that he finds through a Manning Passing Academy or whatever it is, pay him a little bit of money so then he can pay everybody. You can pay Amari Cooper. You can pay that O-line even more, even though they already got him settled. You can keep that money with Zeke. You can bring in more weapons on the defensive side of the ball. You can load up your team if you got a young guy. No. You find a quarterback, you keep him, is what everybody says. But what if you find a guy and then your backup performs better? What do you do? I don't know. The NFL's going to have to find it out this year.
It takes a big gut sack to have the wherewithal to think that you're going to find another quarterback and get rid of Dak, just like it happened here in Indy. Like, to get rid of Peyton Manning and have the confidence that Andrew Luck was going to work out, that's a big roll of the dice.
Well, not really, because Andrew Luck was being compared to John Elway since high school. But Ryan Leaf, I guess, came in with a lot of big-time expectations.
A lot of first-round quarterbacks like that.
Yeah, you're 100% right, actually. They talked about Connor Cook potentially being the guy that Dallas Cowboys wanted over Dak Prescott. He's from Michigan State. Everybody knows he's going to stink as a quarterback.
Mitch Trubisky, number 2 overall.
Take it easy.
Mitchell Trubisky has yet to find his way. And this year he looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence somehow, even though he's another year in the system of Matt Nagy. But I'll be intrigued to see how Chase Daniel does. Chase Daniel's been around for a long time for a reason. He's probably very well liked in the locker room. He's probably incredible with knowledge of the offense. And I would think he probably can perform well, although in preseason he looked bad. He looked bad. And if we go back to preseason, Chase Daniel looked bad. But how is he going to perform? Who knows? If he wins some games, are the boo birds going to come out from the Bears faithful that they don't want Mitch back in there? Because all Mitch's got to do is what? Throw one ball 45 yards off. Whenever he comes back in, everybody's like, well, we're doing okay with Chase. What are we doing? Let's put him back in. It's an interesting situation when your backup quarterback performs well.
Do you have to put, when Foles is healthy, do you have to put Foles back in strictly because you literally just paid him?
That's what I'm saying. Because how do you stop Minshew Mania?
Yeah.
Minshew Mania is something that has captivated an entire nation.
And I don't like that comparison as much because Foles wasn't letting anybody down. He got hurt
Correct.
so early, and these other quarterbacks really were letting their team down. They weren't performing.
Nick Foles, by the way, threw a touchdown on the play. He got hurt. So it looked like Nick Foles was going to be the guy down there, and then all of a sudden he's out. Minshew Mania comes to be a real thing. What are they going to do? They're going to have Minshew sit behind Nick Foles next year?
Trade bait.
Dallas Cowboys. Gardner Minshew to the Dallas Cowboys. Imagine what Jerry Jones could do with Gardner Minshew. I enjoyed being a Colt, but everybody knows that I was supposed to get drafted to the Cowboys. The Cowboys told me a day before the draft they were going to draft me to be their kicker. Special teams coach texted me that and told me that right to my face, so we celebrated all draft weekend knowing I was going to be on the Cowboys when it came down to Sunday. Then they drafted another kid from USC, David something. Bueller. He didn't end up being that great, but he could bench press a lot and run fast, so Jerry Jones loved him. And I ended up as an Indianapolis Colt to be a punter, which was a wild scene there that day of draft and a very intoxicated draft day. But as I continue to grow, both social media-wise, stand-up comedy-wise, and everything like that, I was like, man, if I was with the Cowboys, I think Jerry Jones would be pimping me out everywhere. He'd be on Jimmy Fallon. He'd be like, we got this punter, man. He's going to come do a 5-minute set here, Jimmy. He is funny. He's good on Twitter. I don't really do the Twitter, but this kid is good. I think Jerry would have done that because Jerry's an incredible businessman. But if he had Minshew down there, Jerry Jones would be flipping mustaches to every human that walked into that damn stadium. I would love everything about it.
Have him in a cowboy hat before every game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
man.
you can wear your jorts, but just put a cowboy hat on. Jerry's a good businessman for a reason. That's why you no matter how bad the Cowboys are, they will always be a talking point because of how good Jerry is. But, man, I hope they don't waste this really good team. And I hope Dak and Kellen can figure it out. Dak Prescott's having real conversations with himself right now about hundreds of millions of dollars. Now he's got to perform this weekend. Can't have a Saints performance. Danny Dimes is about to bury Kirk Cousins' dreams and hopes. I like them plus 5.5, the Giants, especially if 70% of the money's on the other direction. Go ahead and get rich with our friends at FanDuel. Go ahead and do that. All right. Show's about to end, but we're going to be taking calls for tomorrow's podcast here as soon as this thing gets off the air. 1-833-622-3331. Gumpy will be answering. We'll be chatting. We're so thankful you choose to listen and watch our show. You don't have to, but you do. There's a lot of other options, and we're thankful you choose us. You've been listening to the Pat McAfee Show from Indianapolis, Indiana!